Hello, hello. Welcome back to the True Tori podcast. So, today I really want to talk about triggers, why they come, how they're related to manifestation, and how to turn them into a lesson so that you can move forward with your life, so that you can really hit that next level version of you by dealing with a trigger in a way that is expansive for you. So I actually had this planned as a YouTube video, which it is going to be up on YouTube and on Spotify, but I got pushed to do it today because I had a call with a client, and we were talking about triggers, and we went into this whole thing about how it's about big energy and what can you hold, and it's about people holding a mirror up to you, essentially, of your own energy. And so I found that this is something in my journey that has really, really helped me to understand why we have the experiences with people that we have, why people trigger us, why it's really important to take responsibility for your triggers. And so people in today's society, all of this stuff with "you triggered me" has become like this thing which was similar to like "you offended me." And honestly, it's a load of bullshit. Like, you are responsible for your triggers. If someone's triggering you, it's your responsibility to look and say, what are they trying to teach me? What is this mirror that's being held up to me of my own energy reflecting back to me? And so that's why I feel like it's so important to talk about in order to raise the awareness and the consciousness around triggers, because it's such a word that's thrown around nowadays where it's just like, you triggered me, or this is triggering, or my triggers, it's a trigger for me. All of these different ways that people will say things like this. And I know this is a little ranty, but it honestly is so important for people to understand. And if you're listening to this podcast, if you're listening to this YouTube video, I know that you are wanting something more. You are wanting to be more conscious and aware of your actions and your daily experiences and your life experience as a whole. And so I know that this is going to be taken in the way it is intended to for the people who are listening to this, because obviously the people who don't want to deal with their triggers or take responsibility for their triggers are not going to click on something like this. But it's just essential in our consciousness and ascension, honestly. So I want to start with why we get triggered. Why do we get triggered to begin with? And it is ultimately on a very surface level. I'm going to take a quick sip of my tea first. Isn't my teacup so cute for those of you who are watching the YouTube video? It's a vibey teacup. Anyway, so everybody is energy. Everybody is energy, and when we are in a certain energy, or even if we have certain limiting beliefs or old stories, old identities, old wounds, old traumatic experiences, any of those things that live in our bodies and live in our subconscious, in our emotional history, those things kind of determine our energy. And so the more we get aware of them, the more we can regulate how we portray our energy. And so, excuse me. When people trigger us, or when a trigger comes up through an experience with another person, it is ultimately your energy being reflected back to you in a way that now you're going to perceive it relating to an old wound. So I could give you an example. One time I was I was having a bad week, right? And I had this story in my head, or in my heart rather, that I was only loved or acknowledged when I was productive, right? And so this started to show up in my life, because what you focus on expands, right? So even if you're not consciously focused on it, if you're unconsciously focusing on it, it still lives in your subconscious, and it's going to start to get reflected back to you, because your brain is finding evidence that this belief is true. So I was starting to believe that, and at my job that I had at the time as a tax accountant, everything is very productivity based. So it became, I only was loved, I only was acknowledged by my superiors, by all of those people, when I was productive, or when I was doing a good job, air quotes. And then that kind of leaked into my home life. So I became very defensive to this story, where my fiance and I have a business together, and he would ask me if I did something for it, and I was procrastinating because I didn't want to. I was working on building my coaching business, my social media, all of that stuff, and I was so much more passionate about that than this business that we had already established together, and that I had to learn how to split my time better so that we could, keep that stream of income going. And he would ask me if I did something, and I wouldn't have done it because I didn't want to do it. It wasn't my passion, whatever it was. And he would ask me, and I would get so defensive. And I would be like, you only love me if I'm doing something for this business and this and that. And we started to really, really butt heads over and over again about the business, about what I was doing and what I wasn't doing, and all of these different things. And I remember talking to my coach at the time, and I was like, I unloaded on her in a voice note in Voxer, and I said, this is my way of processing emotions, was just like saying it out loud. And so if you're new to processing emotions, saying them out loud will really get the ball rolling. Just a pro tip there. And so I unloaded on her, and everything I said circulated around this story that I was only worthy of love if I was productive. And because I believed that, I was relating it to everything in my life. I was relating it to my business with my fiance, which leaked into our relationship, which was also relating to work, and it was also relating to how I felt in my new business, in my coaching business. I didn't feel like I was worthy of this business if I wasn't productive, if I wasn't working hard to get it off the ground. And so it started to show up in every area of my life because of what started with a belief in my head. So that's really like the short version of how that all culminates. Like, you can see that it starts with a thought, turns into a belief, and then your brain just starts searching for all of this evidence, and then it leaks into every freaking area of your life. So that's how a trigger starts. And it actually went deeper to a worthiness trigger, and then also a belief that I was a procrastinator. And so our mind is built on these beliefs that we have to be conscious of. And this is why you really have to create the space for yourself every single day to work on these things, and in more of a preventative, digging deep type of way every day, rather than just when something comes up, because then you get really overwhelmed when something comes up. You don't know what's going on. You feel like you have all this work to do to figure it out. Whereas if you just work on it every day, yes, you'll still have the hard days, but you're much more versed in the experience of actually like decoding yourself. That makes sense. So when you're being triggered, it's really the perfect opportunity to learn about yourself and to heal an old wound. Because when we're being triggered, that's an unprocessed emotion coming up and saying, It's literally your brain taking an unprocessed emotion, linking it to an experience you're having right now and saying, this is similar. This is a trigger. So when you're being triggered, it's a perfect opportunity to heal an unprocessed emotion, because now the unprocessed emotion is active and it's being pulled up by your brain. So just some work on being like, okay, why am I feeling triggered? Why do I feel this way about this person? What is the story I'm telling myself about this situation? What do I actually feel right now? Am I frustrated? Am I mad? Am I upset? Am I hurt? Am I overwhelmed? And why? You start to ask yourself the questions, and then you can start to bring it up. And even when you're not, like, even if you're just asking yourself the questions out of curiosity, I have had occurrences and instances where I pull up a memory of where this thing started, and I'm not even trying to pull it up. So it comes up and you're like, holy shit, this is where it started. Like, this is where it started. And it's so, so profound. And it's so eye-opening to your own experiences, because you think of something that happened and you're like, wow, I really was not prepared to process that at that time. And that's why my body pushed it down, because that's what our bodies do and our brains do. They assess your emotional intelligence and your emotional capacity of that at that time. And if you can't process it, it gets pushed down, because it's a defense mechanism for your body, for your mental health, for all of that, where it's like, you don't have the capacity to deal with this right now. Let's push it down. It actually literally gets dispersed into your cells, goes deep into your subconscious, and it stays there until we bring it out, process it. So like, triggers are so much more than just being fucking offended by someone. It's an opportunity for you to grow every single time. And so one of the big things that you can ask yourself is, what is this person reflecting back to me? What can I learn from this person? And I will say that it's a lot easier said than done in the moment. And I'm learning that. And I think a lot of people are learning that. Nala. And I think a lot of people are learning that, because when you're in the moment, your ego is in the driver's seat, and it gets very hard to... Nala! Hey, get down. Shh, it's okay, mama. So it gets really hard to take your ego out of the driver's seat in that second, because you're just like, this person's being an asshole, or like, you just want to put the blame on someone else, when ultimately it comes back to personal responsibility. It comes back to, what kind of energy am I putting out? That's all. It's all energy reflecting. What kind of energy am I putting out? How are they responding to it? And how do I feel because of it? And how I feel because of what they're responding to my energy is all about something that is deeply embedded in me, in my subconscious, in my cells, in my body. And that's why there's so many different methods of releasing emotions on a mind, body, and soul basis. Like, on your mind, it's about processing emotions, right? And that kind of helps you physically, spiritually, and mentally. On your body, you can cleanse your gut. We hold old emotions in our gut. So when we cleanse our gut, it's helpful to release emotions that maybe we didn't know were still there. And it's also just like a good maintenance tool. And spiritually, you can cleanse your aura. You can use sage, tools like that. And you can really just do like a spiritual cleansing meditation or EFT tapping, those kinds of things. So you can do it mind, body, and soul wise. And it's good to really alternate all of those things to process emotions when triggers are up and when they're not up. So I'm going to give you guys some steps to do when you feel triggered so that you can start to learn how to do this, because you may be sitting there saying, yeah, Tori, that's really great, but how do I get out of my head and into my body when I'm being triggered? How do I start to ask these questions? How do I start to make these changes? How do I stop feeling so attacked? Because that's the hardest part, when you get triggered and you feel attacked and you go on the defense and your ego gets in the driver's seat and it's freaking history from there, right? Then, especially if you're talking to someone you love or someone you care about, you know, words are like toothpaste. Once they're out of the bottle, you can't put them back in. So we really want to stop and process before we respond to the person, and that's where some boundaries may have to come in, depending on how you process. And this is going to be trial and error until you kind of learn your way. And also, your way can change at any time. Your way 5 years ago may not be your way now. We are ever evolving beings. And so I would say the first step is really to just stop, set a boundary, say, hey, can we put a pin in this? I really just need to process everything we're talking about, come back with a cool head. I don't want to say anything that I don't mean, or that I don't want, or that I can't take back. I don't want to hurt you or escalate this situation. Just let me process this for a little bit and we can come back to it tomorrow or a week from now or an hour from now. Whatever you feel, really start to go with your gut. Really start to get into your body and think, how long do I need? Or what is my process? Ask for help. Ask your body for help. Ask your soul for help. Ask your angels and spirit guides for help. They will help you, but you have to ask. And so when you do that, when you're feeling triggered, stop, set the boundary. If you're alone, if it's not an active conversation, like an active argument or conversation with someone, if something just happened and you start to feel like really triggered by it, you can, if you're in a situation where you don't have much time, I would say just go to like the bathroom or something, like if you're at work or something like that, or a party or a family's house or something like that. Take a second in the moment. Take a second, go do some box breathing, which is like 4-second inhale in through the nose, hold at the top for 4 seconds, and then exhale out through the mouth for 4 seconds, and do 10 rounds of that. 10 rounds. It'll probably take you like 5 minutes. And it will literally activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the soothing part of your brain, and you will calm down. Then you can enter back into the situation. If it's really severe, leave. You have to do what's best for you. You know that like meme that's like, I gotta put me first. That's what you have to think right now. So if you really have to read the room. If you're in a situation where you can just be like, okay, let me just calm down real quick, go back out, and I'm good to go, and I can handle this when I get home and really journal on it and meditate on it and think about it, great. If it's an abusive situation or anything like that, you have to use your judgment and remove yourself from the situation, especially if you're in danger. Absolutely remove yourself immediately. Get help from authorities, professional people, all of that stuff. If it is like a situation where someone is just really out of line and crossing a boundary and you want to leave, then fucking leave. Like, this is a part of your life where when you start to take personal responsibility for yourself, when you start to deal with triggers, when you start to really think about how you want to change and level up yourself and do all of these things in terms of becoming a better version of you, a new version of you, a next level version of you, you're going to have to be setting some new boundaries, and there's going to be a lot of fucking pushback. And that's not going to be fun for you. It's going to be super uncomfortable. It's also going to be super uncomfortable and triggering for other people. If you're starting to look at yourself in a way of taking personal responsibility, people who don't want to do that get extremely triggered, and this is where the conflict starts, and this is where it becomes extremely uncomfortable. So you have to use your best judgment on who's supposed to stay in your life and who's not, and whose relationship has come to completion, and who you're willing to get through this uncomfortability with. It happened when it happens when you start to set boundaries, and there's pushback from people who have never dealt with boundaries before. So just read the relationship and really think, is this relationship serving me? And is it serving the other person? And is it for the greater good? And if it's not, then maybe it's come to completion. But ultimately, you have to make that decision for yourself and for your life. Sit and ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? What is this trying to teach me? And because I'm going to go into the manifestation portion of it now. When you want something, when you ask the universe to be the next level version of you, right? We're all like in this space. If you're in my community, if you're in the spiritual community of wanting to grow and be the way you want to be, and be a new you, and be a powerful version of you, and maybe step into entrepreneurship or the social media aspect of life, or like just something scary, something new, whatever, going after your dreams, whatever that means for you. You ask the universe for $10,000. You ask the universe for consistent clients. You ask the universe for 1 million followers. And the universe gives you the energy that those things are a vibrational match for, right? And so now it's your turn to see the lesson in the trigger sometimes and say, okay, how would the next level version of me respond to this? And this is how you collapse time, because when you respond to a trigger or a lesson or a big energy event that's a vibrational match for what you want and don't yet currently have, the universe sends you the energy. So you respond as the next level version of you, and literally in that moment, you begin to become the next level version of you. As you make decisions as the next level version of you, that is the process of you becoming that person, and in turn becoming the vibrational match for the thing in which you want. And so when the universe sends you these tests and these experiences, it's not always just a test like, you said you want this. How about this? How about this shit? Let's throw you some shit and see how you deal with it. It's not about that. It's about, you want big energy in this next level version. So let's just make sure you can hold that no matter what it looks like. And that's where it becomes hard. It becomes confusing, because you think that maybe like the universe doesn't want to give you what you want. You can start to lose belief and lose trust. And it's not about that. It's about the big energy. It's about holding the next level energy and responding as the next level you, becoming the next level you. And the universe will give you little snippets of what that is until it gives you the whole thing, if you're not fully at that vibrational frequency yet. And so it's all about holding the energy. And I'm getting chills right now because it's such a profound experience when you get a trigger, you look at it, you see that it's a lesson, you learn from that lesson, and then you're like, holy shit, I asked for this. I asked for this and I received it. I am a master manifester. That's exactly what that is. Like, you asked for the next level version of you. And so, like, for example, say I asked for 10,000 new followers on my Instagram, right? And I have a video go viral and I get a shit ton of trolls. That's the universe saying, okay, how are you going to handle this? Because with more followers, sometimes with more followers, more virality, is that a word? When you go viral, there's always going to be that law of polarity. Everything has an opposite. So you're going to have people supporting you and you're also going to have people throwing shit at you, right? So how do you handle that? And can we give you the next level of going viral or getting more eyes on you? Could you have the emotional capacity to handle everything that comes with that? Because energy is not good and it's not bad, it's neutral. And then the universal law of polarity says that everything has an opposite. So if energy is neutral and then you have this spectrum of how people behave, each level of energy has these different levels of how people behave. So like the good may feel so good and so supportive and so amazing and all of those things, and then the bad, in quotes, may feel so mean and so horrible and so directly attacking you. And so you need to be able to handle that, because the universe isn't going to give you anything you can't handle. And it's not about your ego of like, oh, I can't handle that. It's about protection. It's about your vibrational frequency and the universe loving you to say, we're going to give you a shot. Let's give you a shot. Let's start giving you little bits and pieces of this energy so you can get used to it, so that it's not a freaking culture shock when you go viral and get like all these hate comments or all these really nice comments and you don't know how to receive them. So it can be good or bad, but I really want to get away from this good and bad because it's just neutral. It's neutral and it's all energy and it's all about how you perceive it. And so when you ask for a manifestation, you fucking receive it immediately, but it's your job and your responsibility to see how you're receiving it and now how you have to respond so that you can process it, respond to it, and move forward and take the next step. And so if you are currently manifesting and you feel like all you're getting is shit and triggers and all of these things, then I really invite you to look at what's triggering you and why, because you may be receiving the exact thing you asked for, but you're just not open to the form in which you're receiving it. And if you're not open to the form in which you're receiving it, then you're not going to move forward anytime soon unless you start to realize the abundance of the messages that the universe is sending you. So I feel like we talked a lot from kind of like soup to nuts about triggers turning into triggers, how to deal with triggers, why they happen, them turning into a lesson, and how it also relates to how you're manifesting and what you're receiving in from the universe. And so this was something that was really, really, really profound for me to understand and to actually notice and experience consciously in my life. And it also raises your vibration of abundance, because you're just like, holy shit, I'm a master fucking manifestor. I asked for something, and literally the next week I received it. It was in the form of a trigger. It was really hard. I learned a lesson from it. I got through it, but I received it. And so it starts to build the trust in the relationship with the universe too, because you're like, I received it. I got exactly what I asked for. It's just like so wild how the universe twists things to put them into your life in a way that you can perceive them, but you have to be paying attention. You have to be ready to receive them from any angle. and ready. And you can do this proactively by asking for something and immediately starting to embody the energy of the person, the next level version of you that already has it. Because then when it comes in the form of a trigger or a lesson, you're going to see it right away and you're going to be like, oh, this is what I asked for. So yeah, definitely you can journal on what it is that person does, that next level version of you. Who is she or he or they? What do you do every day? What's your morning routine? How do you respond to triggers and lessons? How do you set boundaries with people? What do you do on a daily basis? What's your meal schedule like in terms of what you put in your body? Do you cleanse your gut? Do you exercise and practice embodiment in that way? Do you do breath work? Do you meditate? Do you regulate your consciousness and your brain before you open your phone in the morning? Or do you give yourself some time before you go to sleep at night off your phone? What does the next level version of you do? Start doing that now. And then when the tests come, it'll be easy. It gets to be easy. As long as we are being that person, it gets to be easy. So I hope that this helped. I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and let me know in the comments. Leave a review. If you're listening on YouTube, let me know in the comments what your next level version of you does, or if this helped, or if you liked this kind of soup to nuts explanation of, like, you know, from beginning to end of how this kind of thing works. And yeah, thank you so much for spending your time and your energy with me today. I love you so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a great day, guys.